the global economy. It's a bit like a giant house party. It's loud, it's messy, and everyone's trying to grab the best snacks. But what happens when the guests start fighting? Not just arguing over who ate the last pizza roll, but full-blown trade wars. That's where we are now. Welcome to the era of economic warfare. International trade, the lifeblood of the global economy, is facing turbulent times. The United States and China, the world's two largest economies, are locked in a bitter trade war. This isn't just a squabble over tariffs, it's a high-stakes game with global implications. While the news headlines scream about percentages and trade deficits, there's a deeper story unfolding, one that involves shifting alliances, hidden agendas, and the potential for a world divided. It's about people. It's about the farmer in Iowa, struggling to sell his soybeans, the factory worker in Michigan facing unemployment, and the family in California grappling with the rising cost of everyday goods. Remember 2018? Back when the biggest worry was who'd win the World Cup? Pepperidge Farm remembers. But it was also the year the United States fired the first shots in what would become a full-blown trade war with China. Since then, it's been a tit-for-tat exchange of tariffs, with each side trying to outmaneuver the other. The United States slapped tariffs on billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods, from solar panels to steel. China retaliated with tariffs of its own, targeting American exports like soybeans and automobiles. Fast forward to today, and the situation is, well, messy. The United States has tariffs on a whopping 80% of Chinese imports, averaging a hefty 124.1%. China, in turn, has retaliated with tariffs covering 70% of US exports, averaging an even heftier 147.6%. These tariffs, my friends, are like taxes on imported goods. And guess who ends up footing the bill? Yep, you guessed it, consumers and businesses. The tariffs have driven up the cost of everything from washing machines to iPhones. So, who's winning? Economists can't agree, but one thing's certain: everyone's losing. The International Monetary Fund predicts a 1.5% drop in global GDP if this economic tug-of-war continues. Remember playground politics? The cool kids forming cliques, the whispers, the alliances? Well, international relations aren't all that different. With the United States and China at odds, other countries are being forced to choose sides. It's like a global game of capture the flag, and nobody wants to be left holding the metaphorical flagpole when the music stops. Russia, never one to miss a good geopolitical power play, is strengthening ties with China. Iran, facing its own set of US sanctions, is doing the same. It's a classic case of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Meanwhile, Europe is caught in a diplomatic tug-of-war, trying to maintain good relations with both the United States and China. It's a delicate balancing act, and one wrong step could have major consequences. India, a rising economic powerhouse, is hedging its bets by strengthening ties with the United States, particularly in the tech sector. And then there's the BRICS nations: Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, a bloc of emerging economies that have been increasingly vocal in their criticism of US trade policies. But perhaps the most intriguing development is Saudi Arabia's decision to sell oil to China in yuan, directly challenging the US dollar's dominance in global trade. This is a bold move, and one that could have major ramifications for the future of the global financial system. Fasten your seatbelts, folks, because the future of the global economy might look a lot different than it does today. Some experts predict that by 2030, we could see the emergence of two distinct economic blocs: a US-led Western sphere and a China-Russia-centric Eurasian bloc. Imagine a world where trade, technology, and even currencies are divided along geopolitical lines. It's a scenario straight out of a dystopian novel, but one that's becoming increasingly plausible. Think about it. Separate supply chains, competing technologies, and limited economic interaction between these blocs. The free flow of goods, services, and capital that we've come to expect could become a thing of the past. Instead of a globalized world, we could end up with a fractured one, marked by economic competition and mistrust. Some futurists are even talking about a new world order driven by artificial intelligence, where national borders become increasingly irrelevant. Imagine a world where algorithms dictate trade flows, robots replace human workers, and digital currencies reign supreme. It sounds like science fiction, but the seeds of this future are being sown today. Section 5. Whispers of Conspiracy. Now let's dive into the juicier side of things, the conspiracy theories. Because where there's economic turmoil, there are always whispers of shadowy figures pulling the strings. The internet, being the internet, is rife with speculation about hidden agendas behind the trade wars. One popular theory revolves around the idea of a controlled collapse. The gist? Global elites, perhaps those gathering in those secretive Bilderberg meetings or at the World Economic Forum, are orchestrating a global economic reset. They're intentionally causing chaos, so the thinking goes, to usher in a new era of centralized control. This new world order would be characterized by things that sound straight out of a dystopian novel. You'll own nothing and be happy, they say, with their controlled inflation, digital IDs and centralized currencies. Are these theories true? Who knows? But they highlight a very real anxiety about the future, a fear that the world is changing in ways we don't fully understand and can't control. Section 6, the price we pay. Conspiracy theories aside, the trade wars have very real consequences for everyday people. Remember those tariffs we talked about? They're not just abstract numbers on a spreadsheet. They translate into higher prices for everything from groceries to electronics. That new TV you've been eyeing? Yeah, it's going to cost you an extra $100 thanks to the trade war. And don't even get me started on the price of cars. The tariffs on imported steel and auto parts have driven up the cost of both new and used vehicles, making it harder for families to afford reliable transportation. But it's not just about the rising cost of goods. The trade wars have also led to job losses as businesses struggle to cope with the uncertainty and higher costs. Farmers in particular have been hit hard, as China was once a major buyer of American agricultural products. Now, many farmers are facing mountains of unsold crops and the very real threat of bankruptcy. The trade wars are a stark reminder that globalization is a double-edged sword. Section 7, empty pockets, empty stomachs. Let's talk about the grocery store. Remember when a gallon of milk was like a reasonable price? Those days are getting hazy, aren't they? The trade wars, coupled with other global factors, have led to a surge in food prices. And we're not just talking about avocado toast here. Staple foods like meat, eggs, and even fruits and vegetables have seen price hikes that would make your wallet weep. Imagine being a single parent working 2 jobs, just trying to put food on the table for your kids. Now imagine those grocery bills skyrocketing week after week. That's the reality for millions of families struggling to make ends meet in this era of trade wars and economic uncertainty. The rising cost of living, fueled in part by the trade wars, is putting a strain on household budgets across the board. Rent is going up, healthcare costs are through the roof, and even basic necessities like clothing and transportation are becoming increasingly expensive. The trade wars are a stark reminder that economic policy isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about people's lives. Section 8. Lost jobs, uncertain futures. Remember that factory on the edge of town, the one that provided good-paying jobs for generations? What happened to it? In many cases, the answer can be traced back to the trade wars. As tariffs bite and global supply chains are disrupted, businesses are forced to adapt. Sometimes that adaptation means moving production overseas, where labor is cheaper and tariffs don't sting as much. The result? Job losses, particularly in manufacturing sectors that were already struggling. Those factory workers, many of whom spent their lives building a career in a single industry, are now facing an uncertain future. Retraining programs and government assistance can only do so much. The trade wars have also led to layoffs in sectors like tech, finance, and even education. As the global economy slows and uncertainty mounts, businesses are tightening their belts and cutting costs, and that often means letting go of workers. The trade wars are a stark reminder that globalization has created a complex web of interconnectedness. Section 9. The need for awareness. So, are we being played? Are the trade wars part of some grand scheme orchestrated by shadowy elites? Honestly, who knows? But here's the thing, even without a mastermind pulling the strings, the trade wars are having a very real impact on our lives. We're all caught up in this economic tug-of-war, whether we realize it or not. The most important thing we can do is stay informed. Pay attention to what's happening in the world, educate yourselves about the issues, and don't buy into the simplistic narratives peddled by politicians and the media. The truth, as always, is far more nuanced and complex. And here's the thing, we're not powerless. We have a voice, and we can use it to demand better from our leaders. We can hold them accountable for the decisions they make and the impact those decisions have on our lives. We can advocate for policies that promote fair trade, protect workers' rights, and ensure that the benefits of globalization are shared more equitably. The trade wars are a wake-up call, not just for governments, but for all of us. The world is shifting fast, and knowledge is power. So stay curious, stay critical, and stay with us. Subscribe. And hit that bell for more deep dives into the unseen forces shaping our future. Only on Bilmo Chronicles.